Hey folks! Alright, well, this time around I just wanted to introduce a bit of the material for the second week of our first lab. So in this I want to introduce a few new tools that we can take advantage of and maybe kind of some handy tips if you like. So if you go to the lab page for lab 1, and last week we had part 1 and part 2 listed there, I've added this kind of third section at the bottom. And I just want to go through the material on kind of useful tips here, and we'll see how we go. So the idea is three parts that I want to get through. I want to talk about getting onto other servers. I want to talk about getting your feedback for the different labs, and I want to talk about using visual tools so we're not stuck with just plain text editors when we're working on our coursework this semester. So first off, on jumping to other servers. If we've got the entire class, like everybody from all of the 160 groups, working on the same server, csci.viu.ca, then essentially we're all trying to share its processors and its bandwidth, and because there's so many of us working on it, it bogs down, right? We get poorer performance and a lower bandwidth. So what we would like to do is to get people to kind of distribute themselves across some of the many other servers we've got available. So what we'll do is once you first log into Otter, so here I'm assuming we've already got either a PowerShell or a PuTTY connection open to Otter. So we've done our SSH to our Linux account. What we're going to do is jump to one of the other CompSci machines. So for folks in 160, there are 18 of them that you can jump to, pup1 through pup18. And they all have essentially the same view of the file system as our main server does, as csci.viu.ca does. So you can work on any of these, you're working on the same content. You know, if you jump to pup7 and make some changes to your files and then jump to pup20 or pup18, you'll see that those same updates exist there. So they're just mirrors of our original. So the way we do it is having logged into Otter, or having logged into our csci.viu.ca server, it's just SSH and pick a random pup, anyone from the 1 to 18. So let's say I decide I'm going to jump to pup9. And you can stick in the -L in your username again, but by default it just uses the username for wherever you're currently logged into. So since I'm going to have the same username on all of the different Linux servers, I can just say, let's SSH to pup9. And again, if there's 40 people logged in currently, and they kind of just randomly pick which pups they're going to jump to, then hopefully we've only got 2 or 3 people on each of the different pups, and you're going to get way better performance. So I'm just going to try and SSH to pup9 here. And please tell me this is going to work. And why is it not? This is... Oh, okay, okay, apparently pup9 might be down at the moment. So try to jump to pup10, and you are going to find that once in a while. Once in a while, one of the different machines goes down. So pick one of the pups, jump there, and you'll see it logs you in. If it's the first time you're connecting to one of the specific pups, then it might ask you, do you trust this server? And you just answer yes. And again, you'll see that it's got, oops, can't type. You'll see that it's got the exact same files on it as you did on csci.viu.ca, and so we can continue to work there. The only catch is when we go to log out, you've got, right now we're logged into csci.viu.ca, and through that we're logged into pup10. So eventually when I go to log out, I'm going to have to log out of both of them. Right? I can log out of pup10, and it brings me back to Otter. And I'm going to jump to another one, let's SSH to, I don't know, pup14. Yeah, and again, so you can see that we're just bouncing around. We've got the same files available everywhere. So that's just a habit I would like everybody to get into now that we're connecting more regularly, is connect to Otter, that's to csci.viu.ca, that's the one that's visible from the outside world, and then from there, jump to one of the pubs. All right, so that was the sort of part one that I wanted to get into. The second part here is being able to access the feedback that I give you on your labs. So you can see the grades through your student record, but you probably want to see if you got, 17 out of 20 or something like that on a lab. You probably want to know where you lost those 3 marks. So getting lab feedback, there's a special directory set up for each individual student, and it's on a server that manages our version control system, Git. And so what will happen is I'll post updates there, and then you're going to pull the updated feedback over to your account so you can have a look at it. So the way it's done is once per semester, we have to go through and actually set up the access, if you like, to that repository of information. So this first clone statement is just telling our version control system, please go off and grab me a copy of the feedback directory that Dave has set up for me. So this is specific to section, so based on, I believe it's whichever lab section you were originally either enrolled in or waitlisted in. So there were a couple of folks who started off on the section 1 waitlist and then registered in section 2. I don't think the repositories will reflect that jump from one section to the other. So if you were originally in the Monday lab, then you'll use 01, and if you were in the Friday lab, you'll use 02. So we want to go to our home directory, so that cd command just takes us to our home directory, and then this great ugly beast here, where Git is the version control system, clone is telling it I want to make a copy, CSCI is the name of our Git server, or at least a nickname for the CSCI server, and then we specify on that server I want to go get the feedback repositories for my section. The $user actually automatically plugs in your name, your login ID, and then the feedback repository. And in my own account, I want to put it in my 160 directory in a feedback directory. So we're just going to give that a try. So I'm actually in my home directory already, but that's okay. So we'll cd to our home directory just to make sure we're there. And then we'll do this git clone CSCI 160-01, the $user, the feedback. So that's saying what I want to get a copy of and where it's coming from. And then where I want to put it, I want to put it in my 160 in a directory named feedback. And it will go off and grab that information. And once it's done, then I can, if we show what's in our CSCI 160 directory now, we'll see it's created a feedback repository in there. So let's go in there and have a look. So we'll go into CSCI 160, and from there we'll go into feedback, and we can have a look around. So what's going to happen is regularly over the semester, I'll add new files to this. So I'll add a lab X1, a lab X2, a lab X3, giving you feedback on the different labs. So right now, the only thing that's in there is this lab X1. When I post new information, it's going over to that central server someplace, and you're going to have to pull the updated information to your repository here so you can look at it. And the way that's done is just by going into your feedback directory and saying git pull. Now, I haven't made any changes to the central repository since the moment when I did that git clone, so it's going to say it's already up to date. If I've posted new things, so if I've posted an update feedback for lab X1, then it'll go off and grab that information and drop it here and you can have a look at it. Now, these are just plain text files. The lab X0 file that's in there just has the feedback on whatever you got for the bonus mark for that first half of lab 1. So if we just have a look at it, again, just plain text file, use Pico or any other editor you like. And so it'll have just a bit of a blurb on feedback for it. So I didn't give myself a mark for this. So it'll just be something for this bonus mark. It's for most people it's just a one-line comment, but it'll tell you what the mark was and why any marks were deducted. So that's something you can do anytime you like, anytime you want to look at your feedback. Again, it's just, if I'm in my home directory, I do a cd into CSCI 160/feedback. I do a git pull to make sure to bring everything up to date in case I've posted anything new. I do an ls, and then I can have a look at whichever feedback I like. There's nothing of interest in the README. You can take a look at the README if you like, but I think it pretty much just says it's a README. Oh, okay, so it specifies what the repository is. Alrighty. I think that was everything I wanted to cover for the part 2 here, getting your lab feedback. And again, we can recap that as the semester goes along. The last thing that I wanted to go over was getting a bit of a play with a visual tool that's available to us. So rather than just having this simple text window where I can type Linux commands and it gives me text feedback, and I can use that Pico editor, some file. I can use this editor, or I can use Vim or Emacs or something like that, which is actually Vim would be my preference, but everybody's got their own tastes. We can actually use X2Go, which will allow us to access one of the pups and essentially get a virtual desktop here that we can interact with a little more nicely than just the plain text interface. So I'm going to walk you through what that actually looks like. So there is a more detailed description of installing and configuring X2Go available, and the link is posted there on the lab page. I'm just going to run through kind of a condensed version of the steps on how to configure it and how to connect when you're sitting in the lab. So there are there's a fair number of steps listed, but it's mostly just how to fill in the fields on the form that pops up when you fire up X2Go. So I'm just going to start the X2Go client. So if you go into your Windows program list, you're just going to look for X2Go, the X2Go client actually, and when you fire it up, oops, of course it popped it up in on my other monitor here, but it will pop open the X2Go client. Let me just cancel this for a second and show you what the client looks like. So there we go. So it'll bring an X2Go client up, and I'm going to want to go to Session, create a new session, and it pops up that menu that I just got rid of. And we're just going to go in and fill in the relevant fields here. So usually what I'm going to do is, for a name for the session, I'm going to specify which pup I want to connect to. So I'm going to say I want to connect to pup 13. We specify what server X2Go is using. CSCI.piu.ca. Oh, pardon me. I guess. Actually, I probably want the pup there, don't I? Yeah, I want to specify which pup I'm connecting. So I'm going to connect to pup13.csci.piu.ca. Specify the name that I'm connecting under, so my Linux login ID, so it's Dave Stew for me. We'll go through and we'll use a proxy server for the SSH connection, and I'm just going to use the same login ID and the same password as I'm using for my CSCI. Let's see, what else do I want? I think the only other thing I have to configure here is I want to use mate. And then under the connection tab over here, just to keep our bandwidth usage down a little bit, I'm going to pick something a little more friendly. So let's go with, what have we got here? Let's do a 4K PNG. Where have we got it in the list? In here someplace. Got it. 4K JPEG, 4K PNG. There we are. So I'm just going to pick that. And again, it's just because if we've got multiple people on the pups and this is setting up an interactive session for us, there's going to be a fair amount of bandwidth used up, and we just want to tone that down a little bit if we can. So we'll save all this stuff and we'll say OK. And you'll see that our new session gets added to the list over here. To run an X2Go session, we'll just pick that and fire it up. Oops. There we are. And it'll ask you for your password, and if I can remember that. And click OK. Oops. And so clearly I've messed up something in my settings there. Oh, I forgot to fill in my host name here. So the host down here is the csci.viu.ca. That would help. Okay, so let's try that one more time. And see if we get any better luck. And if it's the first time you're connecting to that particular pup using X2Go, it'll ask you if you trust that particular host, and so we'll say yes. And there'll be a lengthy delay while it gets things set up here. But eventually, oh, sorry, my other window, Windows is asking me to confirm that I want to allow access. And, oops, sorry, of course, again, it popped it up in my other monitor. So it's going to pop up a window that looks something like this. So this is, if you like, a visualization of what you'll see if you go down and log into the pups physically in Lab 102. So this really is what it looks like when you log into one of our beasties down in the lab. And so here we're actually connected to our Linux system. You can go through and have a look at the different directories and files that you got floating around, right? We've got my feedback directory in there, so you can see the labx0. We've got the labx0 that we were working on earlier, and so it's got my .cpp file and things in there. So you can explore visually if you like. We can go through and open a terminal window if we want to issue our Linux command. So I'm going to say a mate terminal here, and it opens up a terminal window. So this acts just like all the other Linux windows that we've been playing with. So, you know, I can do an ls, I can cd into my CSCI 160, cd into my labx0. Right. So all of that works normally. But again, you've got some extra bells and whistles available to you if you want to explore through the different applications menus. There are a ton of different tools you can play with. You can open. You probably don't want to open a browser through this because it's going to be much slower than actually running the browser that's on your Windows machine, since it's all getting redirected here. But there are some things that are going to come in handy. So one of them is if you'd like a visual editor where you can cut and paste things rather than using something like Pico, there's one called gedit you can play with. So let's gedit labx0.cpp. And it opens a visual editor that, again, we can start cutting and pasting things. And it's a little nicer than just using something like Pico. So there are a variety of different tools available there. I'm going to just exit this beastie. A variety of visual tools you can play with, explore around. It's just a little friendlier, and there are a few things available to us through that aren't available through just the plain old text connection. When you do eventually want to get out of this, you go to the system menu and log out. And just confirm, and that ends our session, and we can shut down the X2Go client. So that was just a quick first look at using X2Go. I will leave that there for now. Yeah, I think that was everything I wanted to hit for this.